Good evening. Just want to say welcome to all of our community members that have joined us this evening to hear a little bit more about our strategic plan. I am Chad Lewis. I'm one of the current assistant superintendents for the district, and I have also been named superintendent for the 21-22 school year. So I have been one of the several district leaders and building leaders and district team members that have been involved with working through the process to help develop the strategic plan in collaboration with our school board and others. So we're excited to share some of that information tonight. And I will tell you, it's a very exciting time to be an aviator and to have so many good things going on at one time. So you're going to hear a little bit of that this evening. So just to get started, I think it's important for members of our team to be recognized that are on tonight. So Mrs. Wegner will do some talking with me. She is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. So you will hear from her this evening. Mrs. Weber, our treasurer, is on tonight, who is involved in the process to help develop the strategic plan. And Mrs. Spencer is on as well, who has been a key member of our district team in helping guide our work. And then Ms. Von Bright is our community relations director, who will be helping navigate this discussion tonight from behind the scenes. So she always works the magic behind the scenes. So again, looking forward to sharing this information with you. And really this start came from a comprehensive process of planning that needed to happen across our district. So, it was a multi-year process that we realized really quickly we needed to gather some of our team members, look and gather community members, staff members, and really think about how can we strategically plan out the future of our district. And all high-performing organizations have a strategic plan. They look at their gaps within their district. They look at ways that they can be better, and the strategic plan will help guide us to look at those gaps, guide us through how to improve upon those gaps and get better, and then hopefully solve those problems and move on to other things that we can do to continue to get better. So I think that's critically important, that was kind of the why behind we did our strategic plan, but also we focused on our students and growing our students, helping them reach their maximum learning potential, and giving them really a focus, and our district a focus for the next 3 to 5 years. So you can see that our school board approved this plan in January of 2021, and we have really embarked on that process to get through the approvals, but also setting some things into motion with project teams, and you can see all the critically important people that were involved in the process. So definitely wanted to share that perspective, but also I think it's critically important to look at our mission and vision, and really what came out of our strategic plan. And what the strategic plan allowed us to do was to get a singular focus around a mission and vision and values for our district. And this has been reviewed over time, but this will be our mission and vision now and going forward for many years into the future. So again, it brings that focal point for our district. It brings that ability for our district to have common language around these areas. So, you can see in our mission, there's a couple of key words that stick out to me. Academic excellence, being inclusive and making sure we're including all of our opportunities for students to develop a whole child concept. And there isn't an educator in our district that does not believe in the whole child concept and making sure we develop well-rounded students that leave Sycamore. Our vision, a full potential, helping learners reach their full potential in a globally competitive world. And the biggest thing for me there is that when I see helping our learners get to their full potential, it's making sure that we're meeting not only the academic needs of our students, but the social, emotional, mental health needs, all the other different needs, making sure that their needs are met so that they can be successful in the classroom. Sometimes it might even be removing barriers to make sure that our students are successful in the classroom. And then our values, academic excellence, that, we've talked about that already. Diversity, inclusion, community. I think we believe that our Not only is our community diverse and inclusive, but it's a well-rounded community that is engaged and involved in our school district. We believe in character education for our students and making sure that they receive not only academic skills, but social skills in preparation for their not only college, but career ready after the time that they've spent with us at Sycamore. And then collaboration is a key value of our district. And, anything that we do is in collaboration with all of our stakeholders. So how did we get there? What did we do? Why did we do it? We've kind of covered some of that, but we really needed to create a vision for a future of our district. And this work will take part over the next 3 to 5 years. This will be a continuum of work involving our staff and our students, our district leaders, our building leaders. All of these people will be involved in setting that vision for the future. It certainly gives us a way, again, to address some of the areas of opportunity for our district and gives us a roadmap to do so. And I would say the most common and I would say large goal of this strategic plan is bringing our buildings pre-K to 12 in alignment with our district goals. And so that will be the biggest challenge when you take 7 buildings that house pre-K to 12 and try to align all of the work. It will be hard work, it'll be difficult work, but it'll be very rewarding work, getting us from here into the future. And then certainly we want to retain our top talent of teachers and classified staff members and administrators that are working hard on behalf of the students in the community. So I would be remiss not to thank all of our staff and our leadership team, our families, our community members that really understood the commitment of the district to making this strategic plan and making it work, and participation in our focus groups, because all of that led to this development of this plan and creating really our vision for the next 3 to 5 years. So we are going to share some of that with you, but I think important to see how did we get there with a little additional details. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Wagner to cover a little bit more of that detail of how we got through the strategic planning process.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis. Welcome, everyone. So as Mr. Lewis already alluded to, this was a very comprehensive process. So we started back in 2019 in the research phase. And the most important component of that research phase is the engagement of multiple stakeholders. So when you look at all the focus group work, so this plan came together with voices from all stakeholders, from students, from families, from communities, from teachers, from administrators, from our board. And it was really a very thorough collaborative process. And so that research phase was very, very, very deep. So then the development phase is building off of the data that was gathered in that research phase. So really looking at that data, evaluating it, and making plans based on that data. And then the implementation phase, well, that's where the real work begins. So now it's taking those goals, the first year goals and the 3-year goals and objectives, and really putting some action behind it, and putting project teams together to really implement those goals that are in that strategic plan. But for me, the part that I really appreciate the most about this process was the engagement of multiple voices in the process, that collaborative, comprehensive approach. So this is our plan, it's not one group's plan. And I was really impressed with that process.
So of course, when you look at, we can't not use our theme and use our themes to help us. And one of our assistant principals involved in the process said, let's use our AVES theme to really define our strategic themes. And it really did work out very well. So we're going to give you a little more depth. Academic achievement was, that is very self-explanatory and clear that our district, obviously a focus of our district and our strategic plan is always going to be academic achievement. Vibrant community partnerships and making sure that we expose our students to future ready opportunities so that they're college and career ready. after high school. Excellence in operations, major financial operational facilities, obviously with the major master facility plan going on. So that had to be a major focus of our and a theme of our strategic plan. And then we would be remiss not to always focus on students and really the culture for learning to occur and making sure we have that and always tying it back to student achievement. So we're going to give you a little more depth on each of these areas and give you a look into some of our project teams and exactly what each of the project teams will be working on over the next 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on what year and priority it falls in. So let's start with academic achievement. Mrs. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So academic achievement, that's our core business. That's the reason we are in the business that we're in. We want to help all students reach their full potential, which again is captured in our mission and vision. And so when you look at the achievement component, we are continuing to build upon the current excellence that we have. So, and that's even called out in the language. We've got some great things already happening in Sycamore, and we are a high achieving district. But the question is, how can we even get better? To Mr. Lewis's point earlier, what are some gaps that we might have from a curriculum perspective that we can fill to really help all students really be all that they can be when they leave our doors and venture out into the world? And so when you look over at the right-hand side of the screen at the goals and the strategies for this current year, we've actually already started this work, even though it says school year 21-22. There is a curriculum and reporting team, which is really digging into an audit of our curriculum. So think of an audit as just a review, if you will. What's the current status of our curriculum, from curriculum maps, from resources, from horizontal alignment, from vertical alignment, all those pieces. So really just wrapping our heads around what do we currently have? What does the landscape, if you will, the curriculum landscape look like? And then based on that audit, action steps and plans will be made based on that data. Speaking of data, we have a data analysis team as well that has already been formed. And they are looking at not only how can we be more efficient in our use of data, but also what are the big data points, if you will, that we want to focus on. In Sycamore, we are student driven, but data informed. We are all about our students, but we know that data can inform our practice and allow us to serve our students in the most effective way. So then in the next few years, 22-23 and 23-24, that curriculum reporting team will continue on to implement the changes recommended by the curriculum audit or the curriculum review, and also digging into the specifics of student-centered instructional strategies. And then the milestone card team will kind of bridge the gap between both of those to, again, kind of finalize some of those key data points that we really want to be part of our focus. So that's the academic achievement.
So when we look at vibrant community partnerships, it is critical. I think we recognize that great schools have great communities and great communities have great schools. So, we've heard that throughout the community numerous times, and this really isn't the focal point of this vibrant community partnerships. I mean, we recognize that our community partnerships are strong. We value our partnerships with numerous entities within our various communities, but this is really about exposing our students to opportunities like internships and other things of that nature that would allow them to, have a more well-rounded education that's more future ready. And again, more focused on college and career ready, could be military, could be anything else that might be after high school that just gives them a broad overview and allows them to make some decisions for themselves, but it also enhances, their education. So, you can see in our goals and strategies, this is a couple of years, this will be a year 2 and year 3 priority, but, we are going to focus on building some partnerships that are not only collaborating internally, but externally, building, a student leadership program. And I do believe that some of this is being already discussed, but just because it's not listed as year 2, it doesn't mean we might not get some work done and do some background work on it in place, and then certainly being future ready and exposing our students to some of those things. You can see that some of those experiences are already happening, but just really, again, broad overview, broad perspective for our students so they have a well-rounded education. So again, we're going to utilize those vibrant community partnerships to just enhance everything we do inside of the walls of Sycamore and exposing our students externally outside the walls of Sycamore. So, and then our E, excellence in operations, really and truly, this is a large part of what we're doing right now with our facilities planning, and certainly with $127.5 million of construction going on, where we're building 2 new buildings of E.H. Green and Sycamore Junior High, and then renovating the high school and Sims Elementary. There's a lot going on. And as I said at the beginning, it's an exciting time to be an aviator. Just really big changes are upon us, and it's going to be great for our students. It's going to allow our teachers to have access to, really the top-notch facilities, and our students to have access to top-notch facilities that they deserve. So we appreciate the support of our community in allowing that and making that happen for us. So obviously that is going on, and we're monitoring those facilities closely and making sure that we're staying, under budget and on time. And those are important and when you're working through a construction project. We're also working with our building leaders. One of the things that became clear, as Mrs. Wagner alluded to, some of those gaps that exist. We have a gap between how much time we would like principals to spend in the classroom versus how much time they're doing, what I would consider administrative, or just, sometimes it's just work functions that get in the way of them being in the classroom. So our job as district leaders and building leaders is to identify the problem and figure out how can we focus on removing some of that barrier and getting them in the classroom more. So that's a priority, and again, a goal and a strategy that we're working on with a project team that's focused on that perspective. And then next year, or the following year, I shouldn't say next year, but the following year in 22-23, we're going to work on our talent development strategies. It's really about recruiting and assessing talent. And then also we have an integrated technology planning team that'll need to do some work, making sure that we're selecting technology that makes sense for our teachers and make sure that it relates back to our curriculum instruction needs and supports what we're trying to do from a teaching and learning standpoint. So again, all exciting stuff, all exciting components of doing a major construction project and working with our building and district leaders. But again, lots of hard but rewarding work to do. And then the S, the student-centered culture and learning, really that is focused on making sure that we give our students tremendous opportunity. And, when someone might see culture and inclusion team, they would think, well, you're working on, diversity within the district. Certainly our culture responsive practices team is a component of, culture and inclusion, but that's not really the focal point of this team. The focal point of this team is to develop a culture where students and teachers and administrators are in an optimal culture for learning to occur. There are no barriers standing in the way. There's no barrier standing in the way of their development. It's a high performing, high achieving, highly engaged culture. So our focal point as a culture and inclusion team is to make sure that our students feel comfortable for those things to occur, for their education to occur. And, we're going to do some assessment of our current, do a current assessment of where are we now. And then we're going to do a lot of work on this area and then see where we are, at the end of each year. So our hope is to see improvement. I think we have a pretty good culture, but good school districts and great school districts are always working to be better and moving to that next level. So that's been our focal point, is trying to get to identify some areas that we might need to work on and only make it better. So again, these came out of the focus groups that were held by students, staff, and community members and parents. So we took that data seriously and we were able to develop some strategies around it. Mrs. Wagner, do you want to take the rest for me?
Absolutely. So portrait of a graduate team, I'm going to talk about that on the next slide in a little bit more detail, but think of the portrait of a graduate as being our North Star. So when our students leave our doors as senior, what are the skills and competencies, if you will, that we want them to have to be able to thrive no matter what their plan is, no matter whether their plan is to go to college, whether to enter a career right off the bat or to go into the military, whatever that looks like. So I'll get into that detail a little bit more on the next slide, but that is a team that will be put together next year. We know, as Mr. Lewis talked about, that we are about the whole child, and that's actually specifically pointed out on this slide, which is really important because academic achievement is part of the puzzle, but we've got other components as well that really make up that whole child piece. So we know that the social emotional learning component is big. We know that that impacts all that a student does, including their achievement. So there will be a team that will be working with that to come up with a comprehensive plan to prioritize mental wellness. The individual student learning plan team, again, think about the whole child. How can we really personalize our learning so that each student gets what they need? Think about this from a person of personalized learning. That term is thrown around a lot, personalized learning, but we're looking at the person. So what does each child need to reach his or her full potential, as our vision says? And then that leads into the inclusive community team, because when you think about the whole child, we look at every student, and all means all. We want all students to grow, achieve, and reach their full potential. So we want every student to feel welcome, to feel respected, to feel valued, and do everything we can to make sure that there are any gaps that we have, that we're meeting the needs of those children so that they can then thrive and grow and achieve. If you go to the next slide, there you go. Thank you. So portrait of a graduate. So again, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, think of this as our North Star. So when a student leaves and graduates from Sycamore High School, we want to have, from grades kindergarten or pre-K actually up, to have start to cultivate some of these skills and competencies that we know students are going to need no matter what their path is after high school. So a critical thinker and a problem solver, a respectful global citizen, an empathetic collaborator, a confident communicator, goal-directed and resilient learner. Academic achievement is woven in there, as are all the other components of the whole child. So there will be a team that will be put together, again, pre-K through 12, to develop more action steps and tease this out a little bit more to get more granular about what does it look like to have each of those skills and competencies. But again, think about that as our North Star. That's what we want for our students when they leave our doors. Mr. Lewis, you want to cover the other pieces?
Yeah, I think it's important to always know, besides portrait of a graduate, and, I truly believe if we do all the things that you have heard this evening, and you've heard through the goals, through the project teams, through all the pieces that we're trying to accomplish to lead to a portrait of a graduate, and all those pieces that are a part of portrait of a graduate, we will reach these desired outcomes. So I think you always have an end goal in mind. So Mrs. Wagner referred to the North Stars. Where are we trying to head? And we're certainly reaching for the stars, and that's where our expectations are. So we're certainly hopeful and believe that if we work through this process, we're going to have an aligned and optimized high performing culture, that where our buildings pre-K to 12 are working collaboratively, everything ties together. There's not this learning gap or any kind of disconnect between buildings, and students move right to the next building and are thriving right away. Again, it's a North Star. We know it's going to be hard work and difficult work to make sure those things happen. But again, having those in front of us as goals, objectives of things that we want to accomplish, it'll make it more likely to happen. Creating opportunities for students to reach their full potential. We absolutely believe that our students have tremendous opportunities in Sycamore. I've been other places prior to coming to Sycamore, and Sycamore provides more opportunities and more connection and more just ability to dig in and find those passions for students that no other district provides. So, that's one of the reasons I'm so proud to work in Sycamore and talk about Sycamore with my other friends that don't have students or children in Sycamore, is you just have no idea what you're missing out on. So I applaud our community for living in such a sought after district, and allowing us to teach your most precious gifts, which are your children. And we are so thankful that you send them to us every single day. But those opportunities that they get certainly only expand their ability to be ready after they leave our doors. We want academic rigor for every student, and for every student, it's not going to look the same. Academic rigor for a struggling student might be different than academic rigor for a high performing student in our district. And we recognize that, but we want every student to feel challenged, engaged, and, really feeling like they're getting the most out of their education. These other two areas, I believe, are, absolutely North Star goals that we're trying to achieve. And we're educators, and at heart, all of us. And what I would tell you is none of us ever set out to not achieve an A. That's just something that's in our DNA, that we want the highest grade that we can get, or the highest score we can get. So, the way that we are graded by the state, even though there are things that they grade us down for that we believe are better and good for kids, we're going to find a way to get that A, because I believe Sycamore is already an A district. We just have to make sure that the state report card score reflects that. So that is something that we're focused on, and making sure that that happens. And I believe if we do the things in this strategic plan, this will come naturally without, additionally focusing on it. Being a top 5 school district, that is all based on a number that comes on the state report card called the performance index. And not to get too deep into the weeds on performance index, but it requires and for us, it would require us a few points of an increase to be able to reach, that top 5 status. We're working on it. We believe that we can do it. We believe that, again, the strategic plan goals will help guide us there. But what we're not going to do is sell our soul to do that. And I mean that in the way that we believe in the whole child. And I'm so glad that's in our mission statement, and helping students reach their full potential in our vision statement. That is just as important as reaching these goals, as making sure that we're developing well-rounded students. So, we're not going to become teach to the test central or anything like that. What we ask our teachers to do is take, the big picture ideas that are embedded in the state standards, and be creative, and make sure you're covering them to the depth that our students are the most prepared they can be for the assessments that they're given. It's not, here, teach to the assessment and don't use any creativity. I think that would be miserable for anybody in education to have to teach that way. We don't believe in that. And I don't think there will ever be a time, and I have never heard anyone in our district, from the school board to any of our staff members, ever discuss wanting to be that way. So, although we're focused on these high level goals, we have a process and a plan to get there that doesn't involve, again, teaching to the test. So, all of these, again, are North Star goals where we want to go. And I believe that this district, again, is already a high performing, high achieving A-level district. We just have to make sure that the scores reflect that. And there are ways that we can get that accomplished. So last thing I'll say before we come to a conclusion this evening is just, we have reached a point where, again, we are working on those project teams that you saw in year 1 of the strategic plan. You can certainly continue to get updates by going to our website listed on the screen. You can also tune in some of our morning board meetings. We are already, we're planning for the ability to give our board regular updates. Our board members, although they're not members of the project teams, they are going to be kind of overseeing the work and being involved in the work, and making sure that they hold us accountable to getting the work done, which is absolutely the role of a board member. And, they started and pushed us, and I'm very thankful that they did push us to do this strategic plan, but they've also left us to say, this is now your work. We are going to step back and make sure that you're implementing the plan and implementing it with fidelity, but we know that we have the right people in the right positions to do so. So, our staff and our teaching staff, our classified staff, our administrative staff are all now left to do this work. We've formed some great teams that are working together and collaborating on these areas. And again, it's going to formulate and restructure and reformat our district in a more strategic and, I would say, on a very good path for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're excited about this work, and we're excited to continue to give you updates as our community members and stakeholders of where we're headed with this strategic plan. So with that said, that is what we had intended to share tonight. And, I'm always glad when we don't run over, and we certainly end on a little bit early. So you can also, I know there is a chat function available. Miss Bonbright is moderating. So Miss Bonbright, do we have any follow-up questions from any of the attendees tonight that either myself or Mrs. Wegner can answer?
Yeah, we did have a question about the Vibrant Community Partnerships theme. Curious about that when we talk about the Student Leadership Program initiative, how are we involving the Chamber, the City of Blue Ash, the City of Montgomery? So can you talk a little bit about our partnerships with those entities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have tremendous partnerships, and I, as the incoming superintendent, haven't been involved in those organizations of the Chamber and things like that, but I will be a member of the City of Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. I will be involved in meeting with the city leaders on a regular basis. And these are all things that Mr. Forstoffel currently does, but we have tremendous partnerships with all of our municipalities, with our chambers, even with, we have a group called the Executive Advisory Council that advises our superintendent. And in the future, that will be me advising me on some of this partnerships and some of these work. And really the idea, I think, emulated and came up from that group saying, this is an opportunity. This is an area where your students can get more exposure and be better prepared for life after high school if they got this exposure. So beyond all the other pieces that came up in the data collection process, that was one of the areas, and that was one of the groups that we talked to when we did some of the strategic plan data collection. So, again, it isn't in development yet. We haven't formulated that whole structure. That'll be done in year 2 of the strategic plan, but that is certainly something that is an exciting opportunity for our students in the near future.
No other questions at this time. I was just going to give it another minute to make sure people had the opportunity to type away in the chat.
Well, as people are typing away, if anyone's typing away, Mallory, I would just say that, again, I am so thankful to the community for just being interested enough to come tonight and engaging a little bit and, coming to listen and hear about our strategic plan. There will certainly be other opportunities in the near future. And again, we utilize this process to identify those gaps, make sure that we're recognizing that we do have gaps, and good organizations are always looking to improve and get better. And we recognize that our strategic plan helped us identify gaps, helped us really address those gaps. And now we have a plan moving forward of what that's going to look like and how we're going to reach those large goals. So please stay tuned. We are certainly going to need your help. An engaged and involved community is certainly something that all good districts, all great districts need the support of their community and their stakeholders to help move students through the process. So again, I am so thankful that everyone came tonight. Mrs. Wegner, thank you for your help. And Ms. Bonbright, thank you for your help in moderating tonight. We hope all of you have a great evening. And certainly if you have other questions that you did not think of while you were watching, feel free to email any of us and we can be found on the district website. Have a great evening all, and go Aves.